Dark and Dark Elevation from this week as well. But first, let's just look at this picture that I've got in the background. Holy crap, look at this card for tonight. I'm not going to say completely random episode of Dynamite because this is one of those special type episodes. Of course, they run these probably 15 times a year where they're put a name. This one's called Road Rager. We got so much action going on, we can't even see the Road Rager part in the background for the name. But let's go through what the card is real quick, and then I'll get into the Dynamite and Dark Elevation. Dark and Dark Elevation. Chris Jericho versus Ortiz seems to be has a potential to be the main event, but wow, I would say 5 of these things out of the 7 on the screen could potentially close the show. But Chris Jericho versus Ortiz is going to be a good match. These guys have been wrestling and know each other very well now. So there's going to be high intensity. Probably, there's going to be shenanigans. So be prepared for that. We don't even know. Maybe Jericho will get out of there after getting beat down and there is no match in it. Maybe they'll have a rematch next week. But I do assume we'll see somebody losing their hair tonight, and most people think it's going to be Ortiz losing his hair. But if you remember on Double or Nothing, Chris Jericho did have a noticeable bald spot. So I don't know if that's something he cares about. I'm just saying that it's not a complete 0% chance that Chris Jericho could shave his head. So definitely looking forward to that match. We'll see where that goes. That's leading up to Blood and Guts here in my hometown of Detroit in 2 weeks. Is the Blood and Guts match. And one of the other ones that could definitely main event tonight, it was unfortunately supposed to be a triple threat tag team title match, a ladder match, which Christian had basically, without saying it, said it was going to be TLC style. And if I'm sure everyone heard, and hopefully he gets the help he needs, and thankfully he didn't hurt himself or anyone else. And that is Jeff Hardy getting arrested for a DUI, blowing 3 times over the legal alcohol limit, and he has now been suspended without pay. And AEW and Tony Khan have offered to send him to rehab, and if he does not complete rehab and maintain sobriety for an undetermined amount of time, they didn't say, then Jeff Hardy will be allowed to come back to AEW. But until then, he is suspended without pay, and I hope he gets the help he needs. That takes Matt Hardy, out of the match as well. So that makes it just the Jungle Express defending the tag team titles against the Young Bucks. We could see a title change tonight. I could definitely see the Young Bucks getting the titles so that they could have a big match. I'm assuming Young Bucks want to be represented as the champions once all the New Japan eyes come onto the AEW product for Forbidden Door. So it's basically, I would say, at least an 80% chance the Young Bucks win tonight. My match I'm looking forward to the most tonight, just announced earlier this week, Dax Harwood one-on-one with Will Ospreay, 2 of the best wrestlers going in 2022 right now. There's no way that these aren't 2 of the best wrestlers. So an unexpected match of this kind of proportion that we might have thought we would never see. And we're getting it here just tacked onto this amazing card that we already had. So I'm assuming Will Ospreay will win. This is one of those iffy things where politics between New Japan and AEW could come into play, with Will Ospreay being the United States champion and just won the United States title on Sunday. So he's going to fight one-on-one with Dax. I'm assuming Will Ospreay is going to win, but Tony Khan's not necessarily going to want Dax to lose. But at least it's a little bit better for a tag team wrestler to lose a singles match. So I'm assuming Dax is going to lose this one, but this match is not about the ending. It's not about anything other than the journey. So it's all about the journey with this one. Just enjoy Will Ospreay versus Dax Harwood for what it is. It'll probably even end in no contest. So don't even worry about the ending or who's going to win, and just sit back and enjoy that one. Wardlow is going to fight. Wardlow will be in a handicap match against 20 unnamed black shirt security jobbers, and it should be pretty funny. Maybe they're going to might be reminiscent of one of the worst episodes of WCW Nitro ever. Kevin Nash had a gauntlet match where he wasn't like pinning anybody. So maybe it's going to be that style. Basically, when Kevin Nash powerbombed someone, the referee said they were eliminated. So I'm assuming we're going to see that kind of match, and we'll see 20 power bombs with no covers, and the bell will ring, and Wardlow will win. And I'm sure that'll further along. Probably after that happens, Mark Sterling will have something else to say after that. But we do know that Wardlow wants the TNT title, so at some point, maybe that's a match we get at Forbidden Door. It'll be Wardlow versus Scorpio Sky. At least that's the champion right now. So, in another big match, in amongst all these other huge matches, Ethan Page versus Miro should be a banger. I'm definitely thinking that's one that's going to suffer by being on this larger card. It's not going to get the time it deserves. I'm assuming Miro will win, but I wouldn't mind an Ethan Page win here. But Miro probably should win and will win. And this is for the All Atlantic Championship qualifying match. And when they were announcing the All Atlantic last week, I was a little bit um first of all, I was forgetting that we had like all the ROH titles and stuff involved right now too, when I was thinking about having too much titles or not. So after I was then reminded that we've got all these ROH titles around, amongst other things, and the FTR. So adding another singles title for the men probably was not a good idea, especially when we're about to bring in trios titles. You don't want like, I know the roster's ginormous, but you still don't want like 20 people on your show to have a title belt, because then you got 20 people that are champions, and they don't look. And then if you have a pay-per-view card and it's like 8 title matches, like, it just devalues everything. It's the law of diminishing returns. So, but I'm gonna take it for what it is. Again, just I want to enjoy what I watch wrestling at the time and not worry too much about the future. So this match should be good, and it should lead to. I thought it was a tournament, but no, these are just qualifying matches for it to be a fatal 4-way at the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. So already qualified from last week. Um, we got oh, we got Pac with one of the most beautiful black girls I've ever seen against Buddy Matthews. That was the match of the week last week. So we've got Pac in there. I'm assuming it'll be Miro. I'm also assuming it will be um, Malachi Black, who I can't remember who he's fighting, but it looked like another good match on the other side. And then in New Japan this weekend, or culminating on Tuesday, I believe, we find out who the New Japan representative is, and it's almost surely going to be Tomohiro Ishii. So, um, Tomohiro and Miro in the same match, and it's a fatal 4-way, which includes Malachi Black and Pac. That sounds insane. So that's pretty much something you can assume is going to be on Forbidden Door. Speaking of Forbidden Door, Hiroshi Tanahashi, the ace of New Japan Wrestling, um, coming on the plane with Will Ospreay just off the Sunday pay-per-view event Dominion, and he will be on Dynamite face to face. They're telling us with John Moxley. We don't know how that segment's going to go, but I'm assuming there might be some air guitar, and it might even be some nonsense where we get Moxley and Tanahashi teaming up together on Rampage or something. So somebody might come out and interrupt those two, and we might get like a Moxley and Tanahashi tag team. I'm just spitballing ideas out of my head, but that should be a good segment as well. And then we've got Tony Storm versus Britt Baker, which they were teasing for a little while of those two having some beef, and that should be a great match tonight as well. Again, that one's probably going to be rushed, and it's going to, it's going to immediately go to a picture 30 seconds after the bell rings. But man, look at that card. That's ridiculous. Plus, we might get any other surprises. We might get matches announced for Forbidden Door that we didn't know or even think about, and we might even have other people from New Japan show up. So I'm expecting a killer Dynamite. We've got 20 minutes until Dynamite goes on the air. I'm going to spend that 20 minutes now going through Dark and Dark Elevation. Again, like I'll tell you every week, make sure you go watch these shows. It doesn't matter if you put them on. Just put them on in the background when you're doing something else, whether you're playing a video game or working on something on the laptop. Just put Dark and Dark Elevation on in the background. Usually it'll be about, if you watch both of them back to back, like about an hour and a half. worth of action every week. And it's like a podcast where you get to listen to the announcers taking things less seriously, and there just happens to be matches in the background. So Dark Elevation on Monday. It was from Independence, Missouri, taped before last week's Dynamite. Uh, Starts out with a hot match. I had seen this one, what do you call it, advertised. So I was looking forward to this match, and that's what it started with. Nyla comes out, and she's, as you know, been Nyla Rose. That is, couldn't remember her last name for some reason, but she's been wrecking everybody on Dark and Dark Elevation for months, and it's mostly been Sky Blue and all the Joshi wrestlers, all the Japanese wrestlers. So Nyla's just been destroying everybody. If you remember, she was the first one to fight Thunder Rosa and lost. But other than that, Nyla's been on a tear through anybody on Dark and Dark Elevation. And I did look at the rankings today. Nyla Rose is number one ranked in the women's division for all the non-champions. And she would fight Max the Impaler, who I just saw now that I'm watching NWA. I did see Max the Impaler on there, and I have seen the gimmick and stuff on Twitter as well. Max the Impaler is non-binary, so I'm gonna if I don't call them or they, I'm apologize. I'm working on it, but Max the Impaler is non-binary, and I just seen them on NWA, and they are just about as tall as Nyla and like just as big. So I was excited about this match. If you haven't seen Max the Impaler, they have like looks straight out of like a video game. Like they got crazy eyes and like cool hair and like makeup. It's almost like Abaddon levels of like creepiness, but not like more in like a Viking type or ogre type or something orc or but pretty good look. Max is actually I wrote down bigger than Nyla. And this right as I'm writing, oh, I've been waiting for months to stand up and to Nyla and be able to beat her up and give her some what's for because Nyla's just been destroying everybody on Dark. And as I'm writing that, Beast Bomb Nyla wins in about 2 minutes. My goodness. I understand that Max the Impaler's not signed, but wow, 2 minute match. I thought that was gonna be something because Max was bigger than Nyla. But anyway, Private Party's now out. So if you guys want good companionship, Twitter to follow to go along with Dark, because there is a lot of matches where I love that you can see the lower people on that are on the AEW roster, but you also get to see some of the good independent. Because I never have enough time to go watch the independent shows, but I am interested, and I try to follow on Twitter and stuff about the independents. But it's good to see some of the top independent talent come in for these matches. This one, it seemed like they're a tag team called the Premier, and it's Camaro Jackson and SK Bishop. And we've seen Camaro on Dark last November. SK Bishop, this is his debut. He's a tag team champion in 0-1. And by the way, Max the Impaler is the, I think, women's champion in 0-1. And great shooting star press into a neckbreaker double team for the Private Party win. This is one thing I'm also, I wish more people would watch these because, like, yeah, Private Party always loses on TV, but they at least pick up like wins over here. It might not be against people you know, but they're at least winning to get back like I don't know, confidence or whatever you want to call it. Ortiz is out next. We've been seeing Ortiz on Dark and Dark Elevation for the last couple of weeks to build up to his match with Jericho, which I love that they're doing that. So again, if you're not watching these shows, you haven't seen Ortiz in singles action for the last couple of weeks, and he's been cutting promos as well. So he's fighting Anaya. His nickname is the Wild Card. It's his AEW debut, and he's from Rocky Mountain Pro. I saw, which that is one of the few independent organizations that I actually watched for a while. It's probably been 4 or 5 years, but I swear I've seen Anaya many times. He was one of the top stars in Rocky Mountain Pro, so that was fun to see. Ortiz definitely looks like the I Like Turtles guy in that makeup. It's never a good look for me. He just looks like I like turtles. So, which I think somebody's brought up like Jericho or something before on television. but it really, really does look like it. Fisherman's Buster, like Brain Buster from the Fisherman's um, suplex position for the win for Ortiz. So potentially, if we that tells you if we see that Fisherman's Buster on Jericho, there's a good chance Jericho's getting his head shaved. So that's what we got out of that. And looking at the clock, we got 14 minutes until Dynamite starts. So I'll try and get through this quickly. Serena Deeb is out now for the second straight week on Dark. And last time we saw her tag with Nyla Rose. This time it'll be tagging with Mercedes Martinez, the ROH champion. So they're fighting against Tootie Lynn, who we're told is a black belt, and Miranda Gordy, who is Terry Gordy's daughter. And I'm assuming Jesse from Jesse and Festus's sister. Deeb is dominating. Well, at the very beginning, it looked like Mercedes and Deeb weren't on the same page as far as they both wanted to start. Deeb's dominating, and this match actually gets some length, which is cool. Deeb and Mercedes not getting along throughout the entire match, which is interesting because I'm not. That made me think. Of course, I know Serena Deeb is a heel, but is Mercedes a heel or a face? I think she's a face, so that makes sense as to why they're not getting along. I could definitely see Deeb winning the ROH Women's title off of Mercedes Martinez at any point here. Now that they've put this in my brain and have them maybe coming out of this, of course they beat the two jobbers, the two independent wrestlers, but clearly setting up some kind of feud. And I'm assuming that Serena Deeb will be your new ROH champion, women's champion, very soon. We get a cool ending with the Brass City Sleeper from Mercedes and the Serenity Lock by Serena Deeb at the exact same time for a double tap out victory. Then we get 2.0. I don't know. That's just the best way to call him, but it's Daddy Magic and Cool Hand Ange. And this got to be the first like regular tag team match we've seen them in forever. It seems like they have new music. They've got like the opening for the JAS, but then they've got their regular music, which seems to be new and different than when they were 2.0. A good amount of boost. And they're going to fight Warhorse and Danny Adams. A lot of people know Warhorse from the independent scenes. He's kind of got a cult following, just like Danhausen. And I would definitely rather see Danhausen teaming with Warhorse in AEW and get Hook far away from that comedy stuff. But anyway, Danny Adams has like tight jean shorts. He's wearing his glasses while wrestling, and he's got like nerdy socks on. So and then Warhorse, if you guys don't know, he's like smallish, but acts like he's like the Ultimate Warrior, stuff like that, which is a pretty funny gimmick. So he's straight out of like the 1980s. And Kool and Ange stomps right on the glasses while they're still on Danny Adams' face, which is funny. A nasty double DDT spiking Warhorse on the very top of his head. Like that was an insane bump by Warhorse. And that was the end of the match. Of course, he wasn't kicking out of that. So definitely, if you want to bring Warhorse in more often, I'd love to see him team with Danhausen instead of Hook. We got Heidi Howitzer next against Ruby Soho. Heidi Howitzer, another really tall competitor that I've seen on Twitter before, just like Maxine Paler. And I was excited about this match. Heidi Howitzer had a good look. She was quite a bit bigger than Ruby Soho. Soho gets a pretty good reaction, and I note here that I hate when wrestlers are singing their own theme song. So that's just a personal preference, but I don't like that about Soho. Ruby gets a lot more aggressive than usual in this match, and it was kind of needed for the taller, bigger opponent. So more aggressive from Ruby. That's always a good thing in my opinion, and Ruby gets the win. Then we get the Factory. It's QT Marshall and Aaron Solo. A lot of boos. They fight the Dark Order's Evil Uno and 10 in the never-ending Factory versus Dark Order feud. So both teams don't get accompanied to the ring by anybody, and so it's just the two of them out there, or the two teams. QT gets bumped or gets beeped by the censors because he's cussing at the crowd, which was pretty funny. Good showcase match for everybody in this match. Everyone got to show off some of their big moves, a lot of their big moves, and get an Evil Uno Swanton that I thought was going to end it, but QT kicks out. And crowd's really in the Dark Order. Full Nelson by 10 on Aaron Solo to pick up the win. I'm just going to quickly move on. We've got 10 minutes now until Dynamite kicks off the air. I wonder what we were going to start with, too. Maybe it'll be the face-to-face with Tanahashi and Moxley, or maybe it'll be the Will Ospreay Dax match, or maybe it'll be the tag team ladder match. But anyway, Dark is taped actually 2 weeks ago, so um, they must have taped two or episodes of Dark in Ontario, California, when they were there for the Rampage taping, which is pretty cool. So always the Dark one. If they don't have a live Rampage, you usually get them in Orlando at Universal Studios, and the arena shows are always way better, of course. So this one is the second week of having Dark in Ontario. QT Marshall comes out first, so this happens all the time with this Factory and Dark Order rivalry we get between these two shows. They almost always main event at Dark Elevation, and they almost always start the next episode of Dark. And I always watch them back to back on. So it's always funny to me. But QT Marshall's out first. Alan Five Angels is going to be his opponent. Um, Dark Order versus Factory Rival has been going on for pretty much all of 2022 on these shows. Five with some great moves in this match. QT's the kind of guy you can do like any move to. Really good professional wrestler. Just a solid hand. The definition of a solid hand. And Diamond Cutter out of nowhere and for the win, and I knew it was going to be the win as soon as he hit it. They've put over the fact before and do again that nobody has kicked out of QT's version of the Diamond Cutter. So QT hits that Diamond Cutter, he's going to get the win. Bobby Fish comes out next, and he's going to fight Brock Anderson, the son of Arn Anderson. So perfect match, or perfect guy for Brock Anderson to be in the ring with. And this ends up being a pretty good, solid match. Brock taps out, but in the end, he taps out to like a leg hold. I don't know the name of it. Looks like the old Deathlock type move. But Fish keeps the hold on after the match with the bell ringing and stuff. Darby Allin makes the save. So potentially Darby Allin versus Bobby Fish to maybe get Darby Allin some back in momentum after losing some matches to Kyle O'Reilly. So maybe that's a match we'll see on Dark, or maybe even Rampage soon. Darby Allin versus Bobby Fish. Now we've got Garcia and 2.0 out, and they're going to fight against Jack Banning, who had a pretty good size to him. Sin Bodhi, who, if you don't know, if you remember from SmackDown, Kazarian. That was a long time ago, but Sin Bodhi's still been wrestling in the independent scene this entire time. He's basically got like an evil killer clown type gimmick. Has a good look to him. And then Ray Rosas was also there, which who I know very well from Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. It was PP Ray Rosas, and Pretty Peter Avalon, and they're a very well-known team in the Los Angeles, Southern California area. So good mixture of people in this match for sure. Sin Bodhi actually gets a tiny bit of offense, but Jericho Appreciation Society dominates the rest. And triple team, and they move it towards the end, and they get Ray Rosas to tap. Jericho Appreciation Society then gets on the mic and says, "Acknowledge us." That was Kool-Aid Ange that said that. He said, AEW Galaxy, acknowledge us. And then they said blood and guts will be no problem, and they leave. So they're not worried about the blood and guts match. Next match, we got another 6-man tag, this time with the women's division. Anna Jay, Ruby Soho, and Chris Statlander versus Nyla Rose, Emi Sakura, and Diamante. Nyla Rose, Emi, and Diamante have been a fairly regular 6-man tag now, or a trios team, I should say, for a while now. And I think this is before Emi and after they finished this Ontario, California show, took the opportunity to go back to Japan and work in her Choco Pro promotion for a little bit, which she's the owner of, but she's been over here in America doing her thing in AEW for about a year now straight, so maybe even longer. And Nia dominates this match as usual. Anna Jay gets isolated. The ref misses a tag to Ruby, so he grabs her and makes Ruby have to go back outside. Chris Statlander eventually gets in. She's very over with the crowd, as we've seen the last few weeks, and she ends up pinning Diamante. So that was another great dark match, and that's a theme of this particular episode of Dark. that was released yesterday, Tuesday, June 14th, on the AEW YouTube. Make sure you go watch this because this was a very good show. Um, it seemed like because they Young Bucks wanted to put a good card in front of their hometown. So because of that, we got a really good episode of Dark here, and it continued to improve. This next match is the weakest one out of the next bunch, but it still was pretty good because it had Anthony Gogo versus Nick Ruiz, who we've not seen before, I don't think. But Gogo improves week after week, much more well-rounded than he was when he was in the Cody feud. So they've been doing some good work at the factory with Anthony Gogo, some great power moves. Gogo takes his gloves off and hits his new finisher, the pop-up punch. And Gogo's gimmick is that he waits for the 10 count knockout instead of pinning people. So good stuff here. Then we get to some really, really, really good matches for these last three. First one is Konosuke Takashika versus Nick Camarado, which, as Nick Camarado's coming out, I didn't assume this is going to be a good match. But boy, this was a match I didn't know I needed. Nick has some extra swagger tonight, too. So Nick's fired up for this. And I should have known by his extra swagger that he was going to be able to, that they told him he can actually come out and try and wrestle a real match, which we really haven't seen out of Nick Camarado, and this was great. Nick tells Solo to go to the back, so no cheating here. It's just going to be straight up match for the most part. Good reaction to Konosuke, which was great to see. A skin the cat move by Nick Camarado, which was impressive to get back in the ring. And the crowd's really into this. We get trading forearms, then we get trading lariats. Definitely go watch this Takeshita Nick Camarado match. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it was great. We get a jumping knee out of nowhere for Konosuke to get the big win. So the next match, we get Matt Seidel versus Tyler Rust. Again, you might be thinking, that probably doesn't sound that good. If you remember Tyler Rust, he was the original member of the Diamond Mine in NXT. Left pretty soon after that. Rust did a pretty funny pose after a move that had me laughing at a point. And and then Rust was getting way more offense than a normal unsigned talent versus a signed talent. And Rust almost wins with some good matches. Really high paced match. Seidel gets the win in the end. But again, really, really good match. Go check this one out. And our main event is Frankie Kazarian near his hometown. So a good reaction for Kazarian. And he'll fight against Ethan Page, who has Dan Lambert with him. At some point, Ethan tries to bail, but he gets caught and sent back in the ring. Dan Lambert saves the match with a foot on the rope. And then Kaz gets Dan tries to get Dan, and Ethan Page rolls up Kazarian for the win. Scorpio Sky comes down and looks like they're going to beat up Kaz, but Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels to make the save. And Ethan gets on the microphone and says, yeah, you might be thinking you want a tag team match against us, but let me remind you, Fallen Angel and Frankie Kazarian can never team again in AEW, which is true after they lost their match in that stipulation. So they can never team again. And Daniels with a really good promo and Kazarian with a good promo to end the show. We're about 30 seconds away from Dynamite, so I'm going to end the stream there. And I'll be back on as soon as Dynamite ends, so I'll see you there. Peace.